Greetings and welcome to Flanigan's Ecologic. I am your host, Ted Flanigan, and today is Jim Gromer from TESS Energy Solutions. This is a company that builds thermal energy storage solutions instead of electrochemical energy storage solutions, the kinds of batteries that we're all familiar with. This company has developed a thermal energy storage solution, fascinating technology, harvesting waste heat from different kinds of facilities. Happy to have Jim on the podcast today. Jim, good morning. Welcome to the podcast. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Ted.
Oh, I'm delighted to have you. It was great to meet you a couple weeks ago and hear all about what you're up to. And so I was psyched to get you onto the podcast. Just out of reference, where are you sitting today? Are you in the good state of Colorado?
I am. We are in Parker, Colorado, which is a suburb of Denver. Been in Colorado pretty much my whole life, except for a little bit of stint with the Navy, which took me to the Persian Gulf and even off the coast of Somalia during a little event called Black Hawk Down. So
yeah, just a little event. Now the company, I've already introduced you, and the company TESS Energy Solutions is headquartered in Texas. Is that right?
Yep, that's correct. And it's kind of a collaboration of several different companies. We knew with this tech we could go big and get bought up by some huge corporation that just kind of manufactured it and spit it out. But the owners of all these smaller companies really wanted to kind of keep it as a family-run businesses, so to speak. And so you have Thermal Banc, which is kind of the sales wing of that. And then you have TESS Energy Solutions, which is the engineering. And then you have Smart Phases, which is the manufacturing wing. And then the battery is actually called a Novacab battery. So if everyone is confused, I am too.
Well, very good. Now, this whole notion of this is a battery. We're talking about your battery or your thermal bank. But as you described to me before, it's not an electrochemical battery. It's a thermal battery. So that's the first thing we want our listeners to get a hold of. And as I understand it, Jim, you're collecting waste heat from different kinds of facilities. We'll talk about those facilities. You're putting it into this basically storage container. It looks like a shipping container size unit.
Yep.
And you're storing that heat, and then you're utilizing that heat. You're running that heat through a microturbine and generating electricity. Do I have it basically down?
Yeah, you got it. The standard size battery is a megawatt unit, and it's a 8 by 8 by 20 Connex container. They're very heavy, about 30,000 pounds, but you can still stack them 3 high. You can daisy chain them together. And we do call it a battery, but you're right, it is a waste heat conversion unit. So thermal energy has been around forever. People have tried different iterations of it and mostly unsuccessful because, as we all know, water expands to 1,600 times its size. And that can be very cost prohibitive. You need huge tanks, things like that. Our phase change material is less than 10.
Yeah, fantastic. And as I understand it, you're able to collect heat, and this is some of the magic of it to me. I was fascinated by this, that you collect heat from hundreds of sources, right? In an industrial facility, it could be a sports arena, it could be a university. You use some number. What's the number of sources of heat for you?
We have 135 different recipes that we can use, and we can basically take any temperature. And if it's too low, it does need to be about 115, 116 degrees Fahrenheit. And if it's a little bit too low, we can actually add some parabolic reflectors and we can heat that up to get the desired temperature. And it's more about the flow rate than it is about the temperature. I mean, extreme temperatures are helpful, but not necessary. And you can keep running it through the battery multiple times. And that phase change material is running through there's copper tubing that goes through it. It's either air or liquid, gas or water. And then as it runs through there, we pull the BTUs off of that. There's another self-contained box on top of that that has more phase change material that's perfectly in spec within a degree or two of the bottom one. And all we need is to get that to turn into a vapor. And as soon as it does, it turns those micro turbines and we spit clean electricity out the back.
So what would an ideal client be? It seems like a data center would be the perfect
Yeah,
client. Is
Yeah,
that
you
right?
nailed it. Well, the nice thing is Dr. Stephen Bilodeau is the inventor of this technology,
Yeah.
and we have over $50 million of iterations of this battery currently working up in Canada. Haven't lost a single man hour of downtime. It did win ASHRAE Product of the Year back in 2007. Things were going great. He just wanted to keep it up in Canada. He didn't care about going global. And so
Mhm.
they made iterations 1 through 4 of the battery up there. And then one of our investors, right before we decided to make it available in the United States, decided he was going to call it his IP or theirs. And so we had to fight that off in court. Finally got the green light from the courts that yes, it does belong to us. We're the sole, own the sole rights for distribution globally and in the United States. And then had a huge launch, got some great grants, government funding, things like that. And then a little thing called COVID came along, and for some reason, no one wanted to let us into their factories. No one wanted to spend any money on anything. And so, unfortunately, Thermal Banc and TESS Energy Solutions kind of went into hibernation, and we just popped our heads back out of the sand early this year in January of 2025. And we're looking forward to sharing it with as many people as we can.
And then the battery will last for, I think I read 20 years if you're doing a couple cycles per
Yeah.
day, something like
Yep.
that.
Yep. That's right. It'll run for 15,000 cycles. And I'll just throw some numbers at you really quickly. If you cycle it once a day, you get 4 to 6 megawatt hours out of the battery, and it'll last you 40 years. And over those 40 years, you're going to only experience a 15% degradation in the phase change material. And so at that time, we'll just come in and we'll bring it back into spec, and theoretically, it could run another 40 years. Now, you're right. If you cycle it twice, you're going to get about 8 to 12 megawatt hours per day per battery. And at that point, it would only last 20 years. If you run it continuously, which it's more than capable of, you're looking at around 16 megawatt hours per day.
Fantastic. Any maintenance then?
Yeah, you do have your standard maintenance. They're off the shelf micro turbines. Companies you've probably heard of that provide those. A lot of this is off the shelf technology. Dr. Stephen Bilodeau worked for Chrysler Corporation. He was looking to pull heat off of something, and that's when he stumbled across this phase change material, patented it, and then the rest is history, as they say.
So that really is the secret sauce, is the phase change material.
That's right. Yep, that's exactly what we call it, and that's the one thing we won't share with anyone is what it's made of, what it is. But
Oh, come on, we're just recording a podcast. It's just
come
you,
on, I
me,
thought
and
we
the
were friends.
just you, me, and the listener audience.
Yeah.
So I
Couple
guess
hundred.
the environmental benefit is that this would just be heat that would be dissipated
Yeah.
or wicked off of a facility in cooling towers or whatnot.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. You're
by
absolutely right.
generating electricity, you're really you're offsetting the carbon that would be produced if you had to generate that electricity in a conventional way.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been in sales and marketing pretty much my entire career, a lot of it on the film and television side, won an Emmy Award, things like that. And I have never come in contact with a product that is so well received
Hmm.
because every engineer we ever talk to is so frustrated that there's not something you could do with all that wasted energy from waste heat. I mean, what is it? 2/3 of every gallon of gas is waste heat, that's not recouped in energy. And so for us to be able to capture that, reduce waste heat mitigation bills as well as electric bills has just been phenomenal for people. And it's been so well received globally. I mean, we're talking to I don't know if I can say which countries, but there's a lot of people that are starting to get involved. And I think even the US government's starting to catch wind of what we were up to. And they're very excited because you could even drop one of these 1 megawatt units in the middle of a desert, throw up some parabolic reflectors, and you could generate energy for a small military facility. Again, it doesn't matter what the flow rates are. We do need about 12 gallons per minute minimum and about 115 degrees, but we can store from minus 45 degrees to 450 degrees. And then again, you can run it through the battery multiple times, just enough to spin that turbine. And there's a meter on the back, so you can tell how much energy you're getting. And we're not allowed to say grid independent for some of our facilities in some states, which is fine. So we do call it grid intermittent.
Yeah.
And we have a black start option. We have the Montreal Stock Exchange up in Canada, 40 plus floors. Two of those were data centers, and we powered the entire building just with these TESS Energy Solutions batteries.
Now, I thought you would be generating power during peak periods to offset the peak power rates.
Absolutely. That's a great point. And so we do have you can release as you're charging, which is kind of just a fabulous feature. Takes about 6 hours for that first charge, and then it is AI controlled. Everybody's going to AI, and we're in that boat. And so it does take a week or two to learn the optimal flows and how to manage itself, but it's connecting all that data back to us as well as the facility manager. And I think the big thing is electric bill and waste heat mitigation bill. We did have one Bitcoin mining person come to us and said, well, how small is too small? And I said, no one's too small. And he's like, well, my buddy's doing Bitcoin mining out of his house. And I said, well, I don't think his wife wants a 20 by 8 by 8 Connex container in the backyard, even if you do paint it like a shed. And so we said, okay, that might be too small for us.
Well, and then these units cost almost $2 million each, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So
you
one
have to be
point,
of a certain scale to make it
yeah.
practical.
So 1.79 is our price per battery, and then you're looking at about 15% for installation for these units. We do offer a free survey, so that if you don't know if your facility is a good fit or not, you can always fill out the survey. That'll give us the basic information, and we can spit out some hard numbers on savings. It'll take 6 months in electric bills as well, just to see if it's a good fit. And if it is, then we recommend a paid audit, physical or virtual, but depending on the size of the facility, because we have to get in there and see it with our own eyes to be able to know. So that's the only cost that people will incur. And again, the survey is free. So if it's not a good fit, you're not going to spend a penny. And if you do end up paying for the audit, that goes toward the purchase price. Or we do power purchase agreements as well. I'm sure you're familiar with those.
I am. Well, let's take that Montreal Stock Exchange facility, which I guess is a high-rise building, a data center. I'm sort of into the mechanics of all this. How many places do you have to collect heat from a facility like that? I mean, it seemed like that would really be that would make a big difference in the price of the installation. How many points that you need to collect waste heat? So is the Montreal Stock Exchange, is it one, or are you just right up by the cooling towers and taking the waste heat there, or how does that work?
So it is always better to be closer to the heat source, as you would imagine, so you don't lose that heat, piping it. And what we do is we'll come along with the existing ductwork, the existing piping, and we're just going to match it. We'll put our own piping, our own ductwork, and the liquid or the air can go through those. Sometimes it's oil, as you know. And the closer to the source, the better. We can break these units into 100 kilowatt units and place them around the facility. The only thing I say is we're not allowed to take up the employee break room, or people frown upon the organization when you got a big old TESS Energy Solutions battery next to the coffee maker. But anywhere else than that, we can break these units up. And so we put them as close to the heat source. There's 18 units in that. 5 of those were backup. And they shut the power off from the power company. And within a second or two, it fired right up. And we had a black start with that. And again, once it's charged, it's running off of the heat that is being generated. And so again, these companies are seeing massive savings. Let's say you have $100,000 a year in waste heat mitigation and $100,000 in electric bills. We have finance partners who are like, yeah, I'd love to place a battery there, and we'll give you 15% fixed for the next 40 years towards your electric bill. And people are happy to pay it because they know their electric bill's not going up, and their waste heat mitigation cost goes down dramatically as well.
So if you break up one of these units, now I'm a simple guy, Jim. I understood you have an 8 by 8 by 20, sort of like a storage container sized unit. That's the basic product that you offer. But now you can break that into smaller units. You said 100 kW each.
Yep.
And
Yep.
would each one of those smaller units have a microturbine, or would all the heat go to one microturbine?
All the heat goes to one microturbine.
I
And so,
see.
or two.
Mm.
Generally, I believe there's two microturbines. And again, I'm not an engineer. I'm the chief marketing officer, but I play an engineer on television. So,
Well, let's talk. So you mentioned data. I mean, we talked data centers, which is an obvious one. But I've learned from you and your website other possibilities. Applications would be universities, stadiums,
mhm.
energy plants, industrial facilities, manufacturing facilities.
Well, here's the best part. We can actually take cold air to move the micro turbines as well. So it doesn't have to just be waste heat. We can take cold as well. And so we do have an NHL hockey rink up in Canada that we pull the cold air off of that, and then we cycle it. It produces electricity, and then we help them keep that rink cold. And so it really does take almost any temperature, especially when you just throw in some parabolic reflectors or other things like that. All we need to do is have enough of a temperature rise, and then it produces green energy. And this is the best part. I should have got to this earlier. Please excuse me for not. It offsets 1.6 million pounds of carbon per year per battery. So you're talking about over 60 million pounds of carbon offset in the lifetime of just one of these batteries. And that's if you threw it in the trash after 40 years
No.
instead of getting the maintenance done. Most of our clients have data centers or AI facilities. We're getting more industrial applications. There's a couple of very large companies, one of them a large car manufacturer, and their paint facility. They're putting one of the batteries in just as a pilot project. And that's what we recommend. Hey, come kick the tires. Come see what we can do for your facility. Fill out one survey. We can put some hard numbers to it. We need to get some eyeballs with an audit, which is relatively inexpensive, less than 10,000, sometimes five or whatever. But at that point, that'll go toward the price of the battery anyway. And we can tell you exactly what you would need, how many batteries we'd want to put in. If companies don't want to take the big CapEx hit, I get that. Then our financial partners, I wish I had $2 million to throw a battery and someone would pay me $85,000 a month for the next 40 years, as we siphon this clean energy off the back. So there are plenty of opportunities. We're trying to give people the easiest on-ramp possible. And we finally want to, undo the damage that's been done with all this climate change stuff. Wherever
Yeah.
you stand on that issue, we do need to leave the world a better place, and we do want to convert waste heat into energy. No, who doesn't? Who doesn't want to take advantage of that opportunity? And unfortunately, the technology just wasn't there for so long. And
Yeah.
so I've been on about 75 calls like this, and well, not podcasts. I wish they were all as prestigious and well known as yours is. But I've been on about 75 calls with engineering offices, with independent clients, and we had one person say, maybe. And we couldn't believe it. We said, "Oh,
Mhm.
what? Why?" And he said, "Oh, I just need some more information." Oh, okay.
But again, a client could get this technology for no money down, right?
Yeah,
Using a power
yeah,
purchase agreement,
yeah, yeah. You got
executing
it.
power purchase agreement. So as
You're at
long
the
as they've
cost of
got
an
as long
audit.
as they've got the sufficient amount of waste heat to contribute to the system, the economics work out. Talk
Yeah.
about Jim. Talk about universities. We work for a lot of universities, and they've got lots of buildings all over the place, and a whole variety of facilities. How does that work?
We did talk a little bit about peak shaving as well. And
Yeah.
so these systems will also do that. They can store the energy, they can use it later. We do have smaller units, which is up and coming, that we're starting to just do peak shaving. Where you'd sell to a hotel, they would pull it in the middle of the night. And then during the day, they would use that electricity to save that money as well. And that option is available. But surprisingly, a lot of buildings that you wouldn't even think, excuse me, with their HVAC systems, they're producing heat, they're producing cold. We were even working. I don't know if I should say this, but I will for your audience. We're working on a unit that is a self-contained air conditioner. And with this phase change material, it can take the hot air, power itself, and spit it back out as cold air. And so you wouldn't spend a penny on your electric bill. You would buy it once and have a free AC unit for the rest of the time you owned it. So hopefully I'm sorry, John, if I'm giving away too much information, my boss, but I'm really excited about all of the different opportunities, and restaurants and, universities, things like that you were talking about. We just need a small amount of heat or cold. And again, we can put parabolic reflectors to gather that, which are about 19 times more effective, I believe, than solar panels in the way that they're constructed. And that'll give us the temperature we need. And we're doing our best to make things less expensive for everybody.
So these parabolic solar collectors, how big are they? I mean, you already talked about the size of the battery system.
I don't have the exact dimensions of it right now, but my favorite thing about our parabolic reflectors is that they are also AI controlled. And if a storm is coming in, they will collapse down into the unit like a flower. And
Yeah.
then as soon as the storm passes, they'll actually come back out and open back up.
So they're actually
so that
they're
not
actually on
damaged.
top. They're actually on top of the battery itself.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
they can't be that big. I mean, we're not talking acres. We're talking
Well, they fold up. They don't fold back into the unit. I apologize. They don't
yeah,
have to be on the battery.
right.
Usually we need about 50 yards of space around a facility to be able to put those out. And then they fold up more like an umbrella.
Yep. You know, you're a great salesperson. You're exuding enthusiasm. I'm psyched about the product just hearing about it. And a big part of EcoMotion's work now is energy resilience.
I
And
love it.
you quickly mentioned black start, but I
Mhm.
think what you're going to tell me is that if you're grid intermittent, if you're tied to the grid, and the grid goes down, you can obviously continue to operate your battery.
Yep.
If the grid goes down, you can also do a black start, right? You can
Yeah.
fire up your facility using the battery. So
Yeah.
you're providing a tremendous level of energy resilience for a facility,
Absolutely.
which has a big value
Employees.
in itself, right?
Yeah, employees hate us because everyone else gets the day off, and your facility is the only one that's still got the lights glowing, and you got to be there at 7 a.m. with the rest of the crew. Now you will have to forgive me any things that I may have misspoken, just in terms of a couple real specifics. I love the way you drilled down, Ted. You did an awesome job today, and I really appreciate it. I may have misspoken, so if someone out there is much smarter than I am about parabolic reflectors or cold, staying cold, I apologize. We do have a chief engineer. I'm not him, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express one time, so I'll just
Well, we're going to hold you to everything you said, right? That's
lawsuits
unquestionable.
pending.
Well, let's talk about payback, which is, I mean, we've already talked about if a facility goes through your survey and it looks like it is an eligible candidate for your technology, you can do a power purchase agreement. In other words, somebody can get the technology for zero money down and then have all of its benefits. If they purchase the facility, I read in your literature, paybacks are in the 1 to 4 year range, which is phenomenally fast.
Yeah, yeah, I would even put it at 1 to 3, depending on the carbon incentives. We have all that information amalgamated back at the headquarters. So if someone comes in from Michigan or New York or California, there are so many government incentives, and that may go up or down based on the administration. We all know that. But even if someone's spending 100,000, on their electric bill, and they don't want to take the capex hit, you know exactly how much you're going to save and what your budget on electricity will be for the next 40 years. And people who make projections love that. But I would recommend buy the battery or even just take out a loan for the 2 million and pay the battery off, because you're just paying your electric bill. And so there's really no reason not to do this. I mean, if you have a facility, and even if you think it might be too small, it goes quite it can go pretty low where people are still in a real positive return. And we have clients who have $100,000, $200,000 a month electric bills, and those are the people who benefit the most.
And I presume that your technology group is trying to bring the size down on these units so that you have a broader suite of eligible customers, right?
We do, and I think the peak shaving kind of addresses that in terms of just pulling in off peak hours and making that available for businesses to use. But I think that we're in the fifth iteration of this battery, and it kind of is what it is. I don't think we can go any smaller, and we can't go any
Really?
lighter. There are 30,000 pound units, so you have to have the proper concrete slab and things like that that will need to be constructed. But right now, we're only 4 to 6 months out from the time we meet to the time that someone can have it installed, and we're growing every day, and
And
it's just been fun.
it sounds it, and you would never put this on a rooftop then, but given the
Nope.
weight,
Yeah, I don't think you could put it
got
on
to
a
be on the
rooftop.
ground
It
somewhere, right?
does.
And
Yeah.
I think I read you can even bury these things
Yeah, they can go underwater.
underwater. Okay,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah, I'm so excited about this. I mean, I came out of a film and television background, and when I heard about this, and just the people I'm working with are just such good people.
yeah,
And when you meet people who say what they're going to do and they do it, and they're trustworthy, and they're doing something good, for the environment, for
yeah,
businesses,
it
for
seems like a real win-win, right?
yeah. And right now engineering offices are really jumping on. So we're not just getting individual clients. We'll have an entire firm that will come and partner with us, because we would rather have the engineering firm come alongside us. They already have a relationship. They already know their clients and which
Hmm.
ones would be a good fit. So we love engineering firms. And the only thing, we would rather go through them than have one of our salespeople approach their client, and then the client goes to the engineering firm and says, "Hey, is this any good?" And then they would just be cut out. So we would much rather have these engineering firms come forward
Yep.
and work with us, and you're able to do that. Can I throw out my contact information, if that's all right with you? Or
Sure. Yeah.
yeah, you can reach me at Jim G at thermalbanc.com. THERMALBANC, not BANK.com. And we'd be happy to get you set up.
Sounds good. Let's a couple more questions. I think I read that your systems are eligible right now for the investment tax credit, the 30% investment tax credit in the United States. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Yep. We are considered a green energy company, and there are massive incentives. In fact, some companies that are trying to go carbon neutral, or countries, some states that are trying to go carbon neutral, have the biggest incentives. And
Right.
so generally that's a blue state, and not always. But if you get a hold of us, we can tell you exactly who's offering what and what kind of incentives to help you pay this off. I mean, imagine paying it off in a year or two, and then you have what, 38 years of free electricity.
Yeah,
So,
that's phenomenal. And I presume you can accelerate your depreciation on these units as well.
yep, absolutely.
Oh, very good. Well, what other case studies should we talk about? We just got a couple minutes. We talked about the Montreal Stock Exchange. Where else has this been deployed of note?
Yeah, L'Oreal Manufacturing up in Canada uses us. And again, there's $50 million in different iterations of 1 through 4 of this technology, and we really do feel like we've kind of fine-tuned it. But honestly, if you're a bigger company or have bigger clients, they would be a pioneer in the United States. There is not a battery in the U.S. yet, because they didn't feel like coming across the border with the technology, and that was fine. They were happy to just do business up there, and they're finally decided to share it with the rest of the world, in spite of the tariffs that are going on right now. So we
Yeah,
appreciate that from Canada.
yeah. And when you were a little boy, did you ever think that you would be selling thermal energy storage systems?
When I was a little kid, I wanted to be a sports reporter. I thought that was the greatest job in the world. And then I realized to be working 3 to 11 p.m. Monday through Friday and every weekend when the games were on. So no, I had no idea that I would end up here, but I could not be happier. And it's such a pleasure and an honor to actually be able to talk to you about this, Ted. You are an absolute wonderful host. And we want to do business with you. This isn't just a podcast. I think you're going to be a client, so we're looking forward to that as well.
Well, good stuff. And I think we share a love of the Denver Broncos, don't we?
Yeah, definitely. We're season ticket owners, actually. So, and it has been a long drought since 2015 when Peyton left us. So it's good to have Bo Nix. He was actually at the Avalanche game the other night, so it was fun to see him there.
Yeah, I go back to the John Elway days, and
Oh, those
my
were the best.
kids are just still crazy about Elway. We just loved it.
And
Well,
people
listen,
hated him so much, almost as much as we hate Mahomes right now. So,
yeah, right, right. Hey, what a pleasure talking to you. Thanks so much for your time and sharing this information with us.
and Ted, anything we can do for you, just don't be afraid to reach out. Thermalbank.com is the website. We would love to see if it's a good fit for your clients or your organization. Thanks for the time.
Thank you, Jim. That's it. Thanks for listening to Flanigan's EcoLogic. We'll see you next time.